Yeah, so um, yeah, there was some emotional release like fairly early on. It was almost a bit surprising. I like almost wanted to like save it for like the peak and be like, maybe I should just like not try to be emotional right now and wait. Um, what I soon come to like realize and try to implement with this trip is like just don't try to fucking do anything. Like I'm not in the fucking driver's seat here. I took these things for a reason. I took them for them to help me to do something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. That's why I took these things. So, yeah. So like regardless, some emotions come out in the very beginning, and that's very nice. And in the past 3 sessions, what I've largely processed, to my understanding, is like pain, and just like yeah, just hurt. Um, and I learned something because in those experiences, what they had impressed upon me is that feeling your emotions, that's easy. It feels good. Expressing pain. It was never hard. It always like just like crying. It's cathartic. You get it out. You can. It's never bad. It's always. It's not like you don't feel joy. You just feel like, but it's not hard. It's hard to explain. And that's how my previous experiences went. That's how I went into this one, expecting it to be, expecting if any emotion was released, it'd be like that. What I learned that there are other emotions that can be internalized or need to be expressed or anything. I often wonder about what are the fundamental emotions and how they branch out into all the other emotions that we conceive of, and um, but and I can tell you at least one other one that I experienced here in a very raw form. But let me tell you, keep going on chronologically with what happened. So, after a little bit of emotional expression, I kind of segue into was probably the peak, and this is where I just had a really like fucking amazing and enjoyable experience as far as like. That's so stupid. As far as um like fun goes. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the music was amazing. The visuals I were having were probably the strongest I've ever had. I kept opening my eyes. I was in this like dark room, everything dark. In accordance with the John Hopkins protocol and an eye mask, and but I would keep opening my eyes because the visuals were so strong and there was so much like color and light that I was like, are the lights fucking on? Like I would always get confused about that. And there was kind of a window with some light coming on, so I'd be like coming in, so I'd be like, is the light on? I don't fucking know. It wasn't. So yeah, and just yeah, the visuals were fucking awesome. Eyes closed, still seeing a lot of stuff, probably the most I've ever seen, and the music was awesome. Every song I just had this feeling like, fuck yes, this is exactly what I like want to hear, and it was just great, man. And that was very nice. you know, During it, yeah, yeah, there were some like interesting things going on. It was overall very nice. I remember at one point I was kind of having some muscle spasms in my legs and stuff, and this has happened to me before, certainly, on drugs, whether it's marijuana, which I don't really do, but or mushrooms, and they were happening, and maybe it was like ironing something physiological out, some connection, with my mind and my muscles, and my mind into my muscles. Um, which will make sense considering what we talk about in a second. But it wasn't up here; it was actually mostly in my lower body. Um, and at one point, actually, this was happening so much, I was like, "Am I gonna have a seizure?" That crossed my mind, and I like wasn't totally sure. The one interesting thing is in that moment, I was totally, I was like, "Is my door locked?" That was the only thing I thought, because maybe it'd be nice if someone could come get me. But otherwise, I was just like, if a seizure happens, it's gonna fucking happen. I was really just totally like surrendering. I think at least in that way, to what was happening. I just thought if a seizure happens, it's gonna happen. If I die, I'm gonna die. I thought about dying, and that was the one interesting thing. I haven't spent a lot of time on top thinking about death. Death is as a concept. I don't know, man. Maybe this is because I'm uber repressed, or I don't know, but hasn't. I have not engaged with it too deeply yet, in too visceral of a way. Sometimes it freaks me the fuck out. But in that moment, I just thought like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, and that was so just like fucking like there was no emotion attached to that at all. I was like, if I die, I die. Fuck it. Not a bad way, just fuck it. That was interesting, I think. Another interesting thing that was happening during this, oftentimes during these experiences, there's elements of like laughter. And, if you want to speculate as to how that's like helping rewire your brain towards something positive or something, I think that's super possible. I think everything that is happening for a reason in these experiences. So, and here's what I liked about this time is that I kept thinking to myself, like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like, I don't know what's happening. And for some reason, I thought that that was just fucking hilarious. Every time I would think that, I would just keep dying laughing. And it's kind of almost a callback to one of my first ever mushroom experience. I experienced this laughter after a big emotional release, which I think is, you express the negative and then your brain is kind of maybe rewiring towards the positive. And but I wrote the funniest fucking thing was, and I just have to say because it's so funny, although it's about a previous trip, is that I would laugh. I go ha, and then at the end, I would notice every time I would laugh during this trip, I would go ah, like I'd have to like sigh and like yeah, just like sigh after like laughing, and that I thought was so fucking hilarious that every time I would like sigh, like go ah, it would make me fucking die laughing again. It was really fucking funny. I was like, how do I get out of this, bro? Because every fucking time I laugh, I sigh. I think that's funny. I laugh again. I don't fucking know. So yeah, so one of the visualizations I had that I think is quite interesting because I think I've heard it like referenced many other times. I think it's just like an archetypal vision that came up for me. Is oh, my mouse is back on. My mouse is back on, guys. Okay, went about a fucking month with no mouse. Now I got one. But good things happen. But one of the this like at first I just had psychedelic like visualization, just awesome, really beautiful geometric shapes, these sorts of things. But one image that I had, like referential image that I had very clearly was like this snake. And I think I've heard other people talk about this before, but it was like this snake, and it was kind of like in a ball, kind of like almost like a square. Just my field of vision was like a square almost, and it was really big. It was long, and it was all interconnected and like tangled up and stuff. But all the pieces were still just like moving, like in concert. Even though it was like tangled, it was still freely like all like moving at the same time. And yeah, man, that was so fucking crazy. And I think like what my associations with it cerebrally, whether it's like I have any business or I have any whether I have any good bite on what it really was cerebrally, or if I'm supposed to or not. Part of it felt like just like connectedness, like we're all like just pure like connectedness, and I felt this as a motif in my first trip really hard, and otherwise I think I always do. um, and another thing was like maybe this is fear. It had a connection with fear. I don't fucking know. But it wouldn't scare me. It was interesting. I was just taking it in. I was just an observer at this point, so I certainly wasn't resisting, and it wasn't doing anything to me other than just be like, wow, what the fuck is this? I don't know. It was awesome. I really appreciate it. I think it is amazing. But let me say as well, another image I had just generally was like, it's like, I think one of these scientists, I think it was Jordan Peterson, talked about how during his psychedelic trips, he could visualize the double helix, and he was like, maybe it's allowing us to see inward on a microscopic level. And he got fucking laughed at when he said that, unfortunately, by this other guy that was being way too close minded. But it is, maybe you could say, a silly idea, but at the same time, so like, a lot of the visualizations I was having is like almost like how it might be now represented in a computer is like it's like loading, it's like data you can like I'm not saying this is it, I'm just saying it could be this, like you can see the fucking energy pulsing through your brain, like pulsing through your body. That's what you're seeing, like you're seeing these webs, and they're like dot dot dot, like they're it's moving, it's like the connections are being made, the shit is flowing, like that's what the visualizations were. And maybe that's because that's exactly what the fuck is going on in your brain and body. I don't fucking know. I felt like I was getting a download of something very human and positive and needed for me. And yeah. Um So okay, so after this really fun part, I gotta pee or something. I take the headphones. I come back into the regular world. And one thing I noticed is that my whole the super hilarity of I don't know what is going on kind of turned into like, oh, this is like very intense. And yeah, I kind of once I got out of that world too, which I think I was supposed to. I think everything that happened was supposed to happen. I was like, oh, it's pretty intense in here. I ended up calling my dad for a little bit. We have a little chat. That was, it was nice. It was also something technical I had to deal with during my trip. Um, and we get off the phone, and almost as soon as we get off the phone, I think I have this thought, and I go, "Oh, I know what this is," and I say to myself, and I only speak out loud the very last word. I say, "I am fear," and when I say that, and I say that last word, fear comes out in the voice of a demon. It sounds like I am fear, like fear. I don't fucking know. And um, that was very fucking interesting. Yeah, that it came out like a demon, man. I will never be able to impress upon other people the experience that I had. It was very like, wow, just not even scary. It was interesting, like deep. Like something really is happening. Clearly, something meaningful. Whether I didn't know something was gonna happen, but it was just something's happening. And then for the next hour or two, I proceed to kind of be thrust into just this state of intense fear, this intense negative emotion. And a lot of people report with their scientific psychedelic experiences that they don't really remember a lot of it. And it's like, yeah, I know I just spent the next time in kind of like maybe what you might think was like a panic attack or just like fear, just fear, man, pure fucking liquid fear, just. Um, and so and so early on I think I had a decision that I had to make, which was how I was going to like frame or think about, yeah, like just making sense of what was going on. And I kind of had these two options that I was kind of thinking about, which is one, like, I fucked up, I fucked up, I did this drug, I'm doing drugs. You, what they say, what they every what everyone says about drugs is true. I'm doing drugs, man, and I fucked up. This is the consequences for this. I'm just gonna, have a kind of a bad time. And I've had many like panic attack things on marijuana because I was in these social groups or whatever. I was around people who would get me high when I was young. I never really liked it. I had tons of experiences with like kind of just negative feeling and anxiety. And maybe if I had just settled into that and let that come up, maybe it would have fucking healed me a long time ago. But so I did at least have that to fall back on and be like, this will pass. This happens. It's scary for a couple hours. You're like, man, this will never stop. It fucking does. And that was reassuring. Although my body is still just pumping like literal, uh, whatever it is, hormones, neurotransmitters, whatever, just straight fear. So it's only so reassuring when you're experiencing straight fear pumping through your veins. But yeah, so I lean into the interpretation that I truly believe in my fucking core, which is that mushrooms, psychedelics, and a lot of like plant medicine, specifically what I champion is psychedelics, are here for a fucking reason. I'm not very religious or spiritual, but if anything, I would say was brought here by providence and is for us or for life on Earth. It's these fucking mushrooms, or psychedelics. I mean, it is like, it is. And so I lean into that. Of course, that's how I feel at my core. So, yeah, and I try, I kind of fall back on, what I know with my own understanding with mental health and feelings and how things go is like, I need to let these emotions come to consciousness, let them be expressed. And if I just sit here with this fear, I hope that I will get the shit out of my body. One thing I thought is that this shit is from my mind. It's me. What's come, because the other interpretation was like, this is some emotion that this drug put into me. And this one was like, this fear is obviously it's me. It's coming from me, you know? Like it's there, it's me. So I just need to let it come up. And so I just sat in my fucking bed right here. And I let it come up. And, you know, I remember, in retrospect, I remember at one point trying to kind of like move or like do something. And it brought a lot of resistance and friction and maybe even more fear. And I was, and it's clear what was happening was like I needed to fucking at least clear now, although I was still kind of operating just under like beliefs. I didn't quite get that message at that point yet, but what I needed to do was fucking sit there, let it come up, and that is what I did. That's what I did. I took these things for a reason. I know generally how the cycle of emotion goes. I needed to trust that I did. I'm happy I did that. I should say that I didn't fucking do anything. It is no matter of my fucking character or anything. I did this drug did this, this plant, and even then, I'm not responsible for any of the ways that I am. So yeah, so I did that. You know, I don't remember a lot about what I was going through. I kind of remember being hard on myself. It was a bit introspective. And just like fear coming up, just these anxieties coming up that were so familiar. I remember them. And yeah, you know, they're almost familiar things, just harsh judgment on myself, this sort of thing. And and there's some message or realizations or something that came out of it that I'll talk about as well. But truly, if I'm to relay this story accurately, during this time I don't exactly remember what was happening other than I know fear. Just feeling it. So yeah, so maybe I don't know, man. I think I was in at least an hour, probably 1 to 2 hours, maybe 1.5 or something, of just feeling fear. I started to come out of it. And I go into this actually like flow state, super flow state, and I was just journaling and thinking about things that were very fucking interesting. You know, this is where you get like the cerebral like messages. You know, I had talked about this basic schism between kind of emotional expression and also engaging in truth or changing your perspectives, these sorts of things. These are two fundamental things I think that are occurring. So now I'm kind of doing this like, oh, here are messages. I did some emotional processing and release expression. Here are some messages. And one of the big motifs about it was like signals. I got really very excited about this concept of like signals. And I was just like, we're always sending off signals. You know, this was the thing I was thinking, like we're always signaling things with like our actions, our vibes, the way we're holding ourselves, the way we treat people, the way we fucking just like live our life is like signaling things. And I was very fascinated by this and fascinated by just how much we're absorbing in life, like almost subliminally. And so much I was thinking about signals I was getting from people. And this kind of tied into like this motif that I stumble upon a lot with these experiences with mushrooms is we're all just trying, you know, I've reflected on some signals that I get from other people, and I just thought like we're all, a horrible time to check 5 power. We're all just trying to survive, you know, and I just thought about some signals I'm getting from other people. I'm like, they're struggling. That's clear, kind of. I can see from their signals. We're all just humans trying to survive in this capitalistic landscape, in the modern landscape, and that's probably what we've always been doing, is just trying to survive. And underneath our exterior is our interior, and we all know what the fuck that is. We all know that being human is so vulnerable, and all these things under the exterior that we all put up. And the more you can connect to that, I think the better, you know, in general. And that's just a sober thought now, but yeah, right. And you know, another thought that I had is that I was just like, everyone is trying to connect with you. You know, I felt, you know, this was about social anxiety, let me recall that, restate that. And I thought that, everyone, these people I'm getting anxious about, like, everyone is trying to connect with you, like we want to, and I didn't give much thought as to, if that will even happen or how it happens, but I was just thinking one thing is like, we want to, and I think that might abrade up against a little bit of my subconscious schema and emotional landscape around that, of like people are maybe scary or have some amount of fear that they evoke in me, or certain people do, and I felt very deeply everyone just wants to connect, we want to, that's a beautiful thing. And so, one of the, I think another big motif in this trip against ideologically and cerebrally was like, do more for people. I was just thinking like, you need to do more. That's what I thought. Do more for the people around you. Yeah, that, like, on a very just like, what is my life about? What is life about? What do I need to be doing? Like, in some way, like, it was like, it wasn't like care less about what people think, because it wasn't, it was more helping me just express that emotion so I could naturally care less. It's not that I needed to cerebrally like care less, but it was helping me care less, and be more safe, feel more safe, with people, express this underlying trauma and emotion, and just get to this other orientation, just do more for other people. And I truly, truly believe that kind of life, this is a whole other tangent, but like, what you kind of need to be doing is just doing what you need to do as a human being, just doing for other people, helping everyone survive, helping create community, and a community that is all surviving together, and helping others. And when you do that, all the things that you want in life will come to you. This is what I believe. This was something I only recently kind of started really like thinking about and really internalizing. But yeah, and that comes down to what you can and can't control, and yeah. And I think one of the last motifs was just like, get more serious with my life. And and this is the thing, all so let me finish this first. Get more serious with my life, like, just I've pursued always, to this point, I pursued a lot of fun and freedom and these sorts of things, and I still, even coming out the other end, I don't denigrate them, or I don't lamp. I appreciate that, but I think it's still good to every once in a while get in these states that are giving you a different message, which is get serious with my life, and I am doing that. I'm getting way more serious with my life than I've ever been, as far as pursuing long-term goals and rooting myself to a specific place. A lot of things. This was one of the most fascinating parts, is that in the prior in the weeks prior, I'd watched Alice in Wonderland, and I had fucking loved this movie. I had loved this movie so fucking much. I mean, I just thought, like, I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies immediately. And it's kind of interesting because I don't watch very many like Disney movies or many of those like kind of like kid movies. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't like watch those. So it's like, that's kind of interesting that I like that one so very much. Although it's just like creative masterpiece in itself, but also one of the things that I started to realize, once I got to this flow state, I started to journal over and over again. I was like, where am I know this place, and I've been here before. I kept saying, I've been here before. And I kept, and kind of like, I couldn't name it, I couldn't think about it, but I was like, I've been here. And I think now what I'm thinking about is, it was an emotional state that I've been in. And I remember even trying to name it. I was like, is this like a loser dream? Is this the feeling space? Is this a day, like a daydream? I don't fucking know. But I was like, I've been here before. I wrote that 5 to 10 times in this journal entry. Did I mention that I've been here before? Because I have. And and then it was just so and that's why it made me understand why I liked Alice in Wonderland, what Alice in Wonderland is talking about. And it's obviously a very like shroomy movie, but understanding the deeper layer to it is like what these like this plant does. what that movie is alluding to and referencing is like it brings you back to this place that or for me, and I think for the person and other people, like brings you back to this place that maybe you had been in from childhood. And when I one of the names I called it was like the feelings place, and just these feelings that are just like deep inside you. It's just hard to access normally, which is something I'm very fascinated and want to understand more. But um, yeah, like, and I just totally understood this movie. This whole fucking movie is like just cinematic like depiction of like this mushroom experience, but this more like underlying experience of like being connected back to these emotional states that you experience in childhood that stay with you internally, continue to flavor your experience throughout adulthood. And if you can fucking get back there and express that shit, slay the fucking Jabberwock or whatever the fuck it was, or confront fear in the fucking eyes, and then you'll be free or something like this. I don't fucking know, but um, yeah, and that was one of my last little bullet points here. Is that one of the things that I journaled was like it's the nightmare place. It's a bad place, but it's also a good place. And I think one of the things I may have done cognitively or emotionally or subconsciously was that I reframed the worry place and the fear place from a bad thing to a good thing, and just from the feeling place, the feeling space. And I dedicate quite a lot of my life to getting in touch with my feelings, expressing, doing visualization methods, doing body work, trying to get in touch with you know sensations in my body, these sorts of things. Old yogic traditions. Um, I do not. I don't frame them in the way that yogic traditions do, but whatever. So so to some degree too is like something I really really am going to be thinking about a lot is like why we can't get to this place normally, because I've given so much intention, time, and energy in my life to getting there, and why it is that these plants will help you get there. I think you can get there. There's probably ways to get there. I mean, that's what yoga is all fucking about. Like when you get to the really like deep shit, is like I think it does get you there. It takes a little bit maybe more fucking effort and understanding and practice and dedication. Um, I want to say that we can get there sober, because why the fuck shouldn't we be able to? I don't know. I shouldn't say why the fuck. I'm referencing something that's very deep and human, and who am I to say why the fuck about it? But I wish that we could get there sober. I'm very fucking grateful, at least, that these plants let me get there, regardless. Okay. Yeah, so that was about it, I suppose. And then it passed. And then, we get into step two of any time you do, in my opinion, these mushroom experiences, which is the observational phase. And, yeah, and you have this experience, and you know something, obviously something fucking powerful happened, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on my life. So this is now the time to see like what's different. Can I observe anything noticeably different about me? This is always kind of the thing that happens when these experiences happen. Um, even from the first big emotional processing, trauma processing, emotional expression experience I had through traditional therapy, one of the experiences, one of the observation I had, I went from being this very negative and critical person to this very much more, much more soft person, I suppose, or and positive person. So again, we're observing what happened. So I'm like, I'm kind of oh yeah. So I'm still just like making sense of everything. A lot happened. I'm relaying it to you now in some clarity. Some days after, a week after, get more clarity about. I'll continue to have more clarity as time goes on. But you're still just like understanding like what the fuck what just happened. And I'm still even understanding what was that emotion. Fear. I think it was fear. So I think it's fear, and I go. I know I had problems with fear. I did. I really did. In my life, I knew I had fear, so much fear, and it's all contextual. In some ways I think I was very fearless, in other ways I had a lot of fear. And I knew that. I knew that. That's why I wrote fear on my fucking intentions. And, and I knew that I just sat through a lot of fear and expressed it and let it come up. So I was hoping, hey, maybe it's not there anymore. So next day, I'm like, get finished with some stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go try this out. I ride my bike over to this bridge that, weeks before I had tried to walk across the side of this bridge. It's embarrassing to say that maybe it's a 10-foot drop. It's 10 to 15 feet maybe. When I revisited it, even my perception was different. I was like, this is not high. And as I'm approaching this bridge to try to walk up alongside of it, it's a completely open bridge. I could, ostensibly fall or something. No, I need you to go away. And I would try to walk on the side of it in the weeks coming, and I would try to be present with my body and untense and learn that this was safe, etc. But, I'd always gotta lean to the side of safety. It was hard. I could feel the fear. And if you fall into rocks and shit. It's but it wouldn't be that bad. But, yeah, so, approaching this, gonna do some testing, and as I'm from the point that I'm approaching it on my bike and off my bike, I think I'm still gonna be a little afraid. And I'm like, I think should I be mindful and center myself before I do this? I'm just like, let's just go fucking do it. And I just walk. I walk right through the fucking thing. I walk right over the little bridge, right on the edge. I'm not swaying. I'm not doing anything I wouldn't do if I wasn't just walking in a fucking straight line on a normal road. Although, of course, here is falling off to the side of me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, that was pretty fucking weird. It immediately already seems normal to me to be able to do this, but I had to recall, dude, just weeks before, I was nervous. And I always question myself, no, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. I was like, no, I was nervous to do this and fearful. Definitely. And so that is, what an amazing fucking feeling, because that's the first signs that, yes, something deep and lasting didn't happen, and that is amazing. And so then I'm like, what other things can I do to test my fear? And I'm still doing that. A week later, it's just kind of hard to test your fear in also safe way. I try to ride my bike along the side of this bridge. That actually, I really wanted to do that. I thought that would be a beautiful fucking just experience, a conquering of fear, to ride my bike right on this maybe 1 foot block. That's on this bridge. It's maybe 1 foot of block that you can walk on. You have to start on the side. And that was the thing. I had to start the bike on the side of the bridge, and that was fucking hard. And I tried a couple times. And I realized, this is just genuinely fucking dangerous. So I really would have loved to have done that. I think that would have been beautiful. Maybe it was even possible, you know what I mean? But it's pretty hard to keep your tire, to start a bike within about a 1 foot block without wobbling at all. And that would be a pretty shitty fall off the bike. You would not be able to orient yourself. You might land on the bike. Yeah. So, didn't do that. But I tried. Tried pretty fucking hard. And I did some other things. Oh my god, yeah. It is almost a little embarrassing, but I'm not going to be embarrassed. Fuck that. To say I didn't even like swinging. I didn't like swinging because every time I would swing on a swing set, I'd look up at this big metal bar right above my head, and we're every time the swing goes, we're kind of loosening that motherfucker, right? That's kind of the things I would think. And so I went and I was like, I'll just go swing. And I swinged, and I felt a different orientation towards it. You're trying to understand. I'm still just I still look at that thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe it could fall. I don't fucking know. But I swang, and I think it still was a very different experience. And I've swung multiple times since then as well. So I think that was also evidence that I had a decrease in fear. I go and I climb a tree, and that's just fun. It wasn't even scary, but but one of the biggest things is that I'm now going to work. In the next coming days. I had a couple days off, and one of the biggest observational arenas and biggest tests is how am I going to feel at work when the whole thing I did this for, well, I did it for this 30 years old anxiety. But that was going to be a really great experiment. Because I've been really like tense in the times where I've been completely shutting down, where kids would come and joke with me, and I was shut down. I was emotionally shut down. I was in a place like, I can't joke with you. I don't want to. I don't even know how. I feel awkward that I don't know how. Just shut down. Anyways, yeah, I go to work, and I've had a couple days since work. What happens is that I have the best fucking days. I have the best fucking days. I'm so open with everyone. I have no fucking social anxiety. The least of most with the kids. I don't know if that's true or not, whatever, but yeah, none with the kids either. And um and my coworkers are great. Everything's fucking great. And I feel fucking great. I feel fucking great. And I dedicated my life for 6 or 7 years to healing myself emotionally. So I think I got like really high level of of trauma. I processed a high level of trauma, and I got really emotionally healthy. I think I had this last thing that was like, I was like this really healthy person that also just I could not get over this social anxiety in certain contexts, and I was always like, I should feel better. I would engage when I would engage with people who I was comfortable with. I feel so much positive energy and so good. I'm like, I should feel this way. Shouldn't I feel this with fucking everyone? I eat good. My lifestyle is good. I dedicate so much time to mental health, and now I fucking feel like that. I think I feel fucking good generally, and just good energy. These sorts of things, and that's fucking amazing. But here's one of probably the fucking most amazing part. Truly the fucking most amazing part is that for essentially my whole life, at least that I can remember in past childhood, is that I had this tension in my body. Like my shoulders would get so tense. Even my fingers would like crinkle up into like this. I had to be like, dude, just keep these motherfuckers open. My stomach is still something actually that slightly prevails, and that might be a postural thing. I don't know, but my stomach would be tensed. I would be this ball of tension all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. Not even when, of course, during when I was being social and stuff, but just like a large percentage of my life, just walking around, I'd just be like, untense, man, untense. And I had so many theories on this, or I had a few theories. Is this posture? Is this breathing? Or is this psychological trauma? And it is fucking amazing to experience that it was, the vast majority, like, I think psychological trauma. And so I'm going to tell you, my next observation was like, I noticed this lifelong fucking tension that I had, that I knew it would, and what the tension would do, it was also take me out of the moment, put me into a negative emotional space, put me into rumination, all these things. That was very clear. Every time I would untense, I'd be like, oh, like, god damn, fucking get me out of that like kind of little hellscape I just put myself in. And I'd be intentional about it and eventually come back tension. And I was like practicing some traditions with trying to be very present with my body and to untense, and I was getting good results. But the thing is, if it's not autonomic, it's gonna be tough. It's very difficult to be mindful your whole fucking life, and honestly, it's probably not optimal, because if you're diverting energy to that, to monitoring that, you're de facto, or you're not going to be fully present with the outside world if you want to be having good connections, these sorts of things. So although I did have a lot of benefit when I was trying to be mindful and keep myself untense, and I did feel an opening up, certainly. I think that, and maybe this would have happened eventually, that this fear would have been processed out of me, but I think that this, being able to process it permanently with this mushroom experience, is priceless. It is priceless. I used to say this when I would talk about mental health to people. I would say, therapy, it might be the most valuable thing you can do. If I would pay half my wages for the rest of my life to have some of these breakthroughs that I have. And again, this is an experience that is like, what is the value of this? The value is unthinkable. You know what I mean? To go from to free, and be able to connect with people and be open and enjoy, and not have to think, not have to monitor myself, and not even be around anyone, but be tense and be in this negative emotional landscape with these negative thoughts. Like, what's the value of that? Is I don't like, anyways, like, I don't have to accomplish anything in my fucking life. I have peace and, like, and calmness. Like, what is the value of that? It is everything. It is everything. And it's very nice. And so I could not be more fucking thankful and grateful for, this just direction of my life, these sorts of things. And this is why I want it for other people, you know what I mean? Deeply. So yeah, what do I observe? This fucking demon, this tension is gone. And that is amazing. Because how much energy, how much thought did I put into this? Unthinkable amount. So very much. So much experimentation on how I can resolve this sort of thing finally gets resolved in the matter of a couple hours because of something just deeply natural and beneficial in my opinion, although we demonize it. I think that's the climax of this whole message I'm giving. I cannot express enough how life-changing that was. And what I come to realize is, in my curiosity of what is this fucking tension that I've always felt, what it was internalized just fear, just straight fear. What do you do when you get surprised by someone? What do you do? You tense up, you fear, you tense up, you harden yourself because you brace yourself. And obviously that affects your mind state as well. So that's how I was living. I live my life on like hard mode, and I've lived my life on hard mode. That many times has that hard mode decreased, through mental health practices. So, but this one, big one. I feel so fucking good. Like I feel like so fucking good. Like. I'm so excited to talk to people. I used to kind of have this anxiety of like, am I gonna be funny? Am I gonna be the version of myself that I love, or how is this gonna go with this person? Even though I was a very socially successful person in many ways, and now I just feel so fucking good. I feel like if there's another person around me, I don't care if it's the coolest person ever, the most beautiful, and all the things qualities that might intimidate me before. We're like. I'm excited. Like, I just want to talk and connect with people. Like, yeah, it's nice. So some other observations I had is I used to like compulsively look in the mirror. I mean, just recently I was trimming and cutting my hair every single day, and I actually didn't think that was too bad. It was kind of fine. But what was worse was just like compulsively looking in the mirror. When anxiety would come up, I would go check the mirror, just looking like, am I okay? Am I good enough? Am I looking good enough? Fear of not looking perfect or something. I'm not gonna fucking look perfect, but as good as I could look, and fuck all that noise. And another observation I had is like, I'm just like not looking in the mirror. I'm not, the thing is, I'm not actively avoiding the mirror either. I used to also avoid the mirror because I knew that I would look in it. I'm not avoiding it either. I'm just not interested in looking at it. Actually like deeply uninterested. And it kind of, every time I go in the bathroom, I kind of think like, how do I feel? I'm like, it's still just like crazy how deeply uninterested I am in looking in the mirror. And, a lot of that is because I think cerebrally, if I'm to interpret that, obviously it's because this emotion came out of me. But I think on the more philosophical level as well, as like, that shit doesn't fucking matter. The way you look doesn't fucking matter. Like, it's your presence with people, your openness, your love. That is, obviously your matters. Your looks are an aspect, and they're nice. We appreciate beauty, these sorts of things. But like, how you interact with people, if you're open, the type of feeling, the thing that makes us not two robots interacting, going friendship, oh, nice to meet you, is the feeling that we give and elicit in others, and the vibe that we exchange, I suppose. And that's what's fucking important. And I think that this experience is helping me connect with that on an emotional level as well, getting that fucking fear out of me. I don't want to speak badly about like that fucking fear. It was there for a reason. I guess. I don't know if I should respect the fear that I used to have or not. So out of caution, I'm gonna try not to be like, fuck that fear. It was there as helping me probably in the past for a fucking reason. I'm glad it's gone now. That's all I can say. So yeah, I've noticed I've not wanted to masturbate, which was probably like a coping mechanism that I did as well. Um, yeah, I just haven't. I still haven't. You know, I've even thought, I'm like, am I just done with this for good? That'd be interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with masturbating. I do think it probably is not optimal. You probably retain more like energy or just like fucking hormones that'll just be good for you to keep if you don't do that. But one of my biggest things was like, one of the things I do think is just really not fucking good for you is porn. And I have always had like a hard relationship with porn because, you know, I mostly did not watch porn and I was proud of that, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle because I wanted to. And, you know, one of the things as well that I did was like sext, and, you know, so far I haven't wanted to do that at all. And I used to lock my phone and lock my laptop, and I think that's like great for a lot of people. You know, I could make a whole other video on like get your life back by getting this fucking bullshit technology out of here. But one thing that has recently, since I have had my experience, is that all my shit's been unlocked, and I haven't wanted to eat, not let alone watch porn or sex. Is like I don't even want to fucking be on YouTube or all this like bullshit. And I don't know if all these will always last like this. We'll have to see. But it's an amazing thing to be feeling right now and have this perspective right now. And some amount of that perspective will always prevail as something I experienced. Um, and I, I think the more severe things, I feel a higher confidence that I am done with. You know, yeah, so that's fucking amazing. And possibly I just feel like I have more self control in general, even with just things like sugar. Self control has always been an interesting phenomenon to me. You know, my best strategy has always been avoidance because actual self control, when that sugar is in front of you, when you're in your room alone and you can watch porn and and you don't feel good, and it's a emotional regulation that's at your fingertips. That's really just suffering in disguise. That self control has been hard. I feel I have more self control right now, just in general. I felt differently about wanting to be alive or not. You know, I've had a very nice life, to be honest with you, from like an outside maybe perspective, or you know, and you know, part of that is I'm proud to say I follow my values, I've had a lot of freedom in my life so far. I've had a lot of fun, a lot of community, a lot of beautiful things, and contrasting that to the way that I know life can be, you might say I've had a really nice life in that way. Still, you know, a lot of my attitude was like, yes, I had a lot of beautiful things and I have a lot of fun, and yes, life is really nice sometimes. At the same time, I felt like, you know, if a big bus would hit me at any given time, then whatever, you know, then that's an equally good outcome. You know? And you know, for I think for one of the first times, I really feel like I want to be fucking alive. Like I want to be alive because this shit is fun. Um, and you know, I think that's mushrooms too. But I think a thing with mushrooms and what you see in like literature and stuff, or what you hear from like, reports, is that, you know, like, oh, it might go away. And I think it's because, you know, it's not only about implementing the lessons you learn, but it's also about, we have got to create lifestyles that are fulfilling to us. Like, you know, and I think more people are coming to understand that the traditional path of job, mortgage, kids is, you know, it's one route, but that might not, that it potentially comes with also really potentially negative, unfulfilling route if it doesn't work right for you. Next section comes.